Today on Here for the Right Reasons, Bachelor Zach breaks down night one with us.
Not the biggest fan of the ear licking at all.
Plus, Lindsay reacts to Chris Harrison's podcast. Tyler Cameron and Rachel Kirkconnell will reveal how their feud began, while Kristin Cavallari dishes on her New Year's Eve date with Tyler. Plus, Tenley details past fling with Ben Higgins as Deanna Pappas and her husband split. We've got that plus so much more on today's Here for the Right Reasons. Hey guys, Christina Garibaldi here with Us Weekly Deputy Editor Sarah Heron, and we are here. We have made it. The Bachelor has begun. And before we get into everything, overall, how would you rate night one?
I thought it was totally fine.
Yes.
Which may sound bad, but I don't mean it in a harsh way. I just meant completely standard, nothing crazy. People kept asking me oh, should I watch this season? What do you think of the premiere? And I was like, if you like The Bachelor and you like dating shows and the format, then you should watch it because there was nothing wrong with it, but nothing out of the ordinary happened either. It was very average. What did you think?
I couldn't agree with you more. Average, I give it if I'm rating it a C because there was, it didn't blow me away. It didn't leave me underwhelmed. It was fine. And we had some memorable entrances, nothing over the top that we've really seen before. There was no band playings and things like that. We didn't really get these over the top things, but it was fine. And I think that that's what they're kind of going for this season is to not bring us these theatrics, the drama. They're just kind of there for the love story. So we'll see if it all works out, but we have a lot to get to, a lot of news this week too. So before we get into the recap, let's see what you guys had to say at last week's show. VC says, I personally enjoyed Chris Harrison's podcast and will continue listening. So I'm sure a lot of people will be, but one person that's not going to be tuning in each and every week is Lindsay, because she determined that the show isn't meant for her. She said during her Higher Learning podcast, she said, it's for his fans. It's for those who have reached out, those who have wondered where he is. That's all I needed to know. So for all the people who are I can't believe this wasn't addressed. I can't believe this wasn't said. He told you all who this podcast is for. It's not for y'all. It's for his supporters. That's who he was talking to. It set the tone for the whole thing. So I don't know why people thought that they were going to get something, either some tea or even something toward me or what happened. She added that if you think that she's sitting around waiting for something for Chris Harrison, you don't know her. She said, I wasn't expecting that. I listened to the whole thing. I hadn't heard him speak on it too. I was curious as to what he was going to say, but I knew who it was for. It wasn't for me. He flat out said, I stand by what I said. He just said it was sloppy. So, yeah, I guess if a lot of people were wondering what really happened behind the scenes, if the two of them talked really, you weren't getting that.
Yeah, and I think that does make sense. I think everything Rachel said makes sense. And I also think, one of the things I was asking was who is this podcast for? And when she put it that way, it does make sense because also what was he going to do just every week? Recap The Bachelor or try to spill tea when he can't because he's in a contract. So it makes sense that he would start with that because he has to kind of address the elephant in the room. And he did it in the way that he felt was right. And to his supporters, which makes sense versus explaining what he kind of really meant by the comment. It was more detailing the reaction to it. But I also think I listened to the call-in show and every single person who called in just asked him about The Bachelor. So I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to, in a couple months, maybe distance it to be about, maybe him giving advice or whatever he wants the show to be, because I can't imagine he genuinely wants to be answering questions about The Bachelor for the foreseeable future.
Oh, totally. But I think this week his guests are Ben and Wells. So, he's still going back to, the Bachelor format. I guess that, that's what people want to listen to. So like you said, it'll be interesting to see a month or 2 months from now, how this podcast kind of takes shape. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, somebody else who did a podcast together was Rachel Kirkconnell and Tyler Cameron and Matt James, the infamous trio. They sat down and they started talking about their quote unquote feud and the beef. And honestly, I felt good about this because this is exactly what I thought happened. And I'm finally getting my validation here. But Rachel kind of was teasing Tyler. She was like, you were throwing me under the bus in these interviews. You're calling me the old ball and chain. And then Matt said, I actually think this is my fault for a few reasons. He said, for a few reasons. He said, I hadn't had a girlfriend, a serious committed relationship in years. Coming off of The Bachelor, I didn't know what it meant to be a boyfriend yet. My girlfriend was still technically Tyler. I didn't know that I had to spend more time with you than with Tyler. I didn't know I had to include Rachel in these things. And I was still doing boyfriend-girlfriend things with TC. I wasn't balancing my time. Then I tried to balance it by including Rachel in things that me and TC were doing. And then in part, it was messing up y'all's relationship. And then I went on Andy Cohen.
Yes. That's
how all good
blew up.
how all good feud start. And then I went on Andy Cohen. So he obviously went on Watch What Happens Live in May of last year. And he, in a kind of throwaway comment, described Matt and Rachel's relationship as love-hate. That then spewed everyone in the media, including myself, including you, to ask Tyler, who was doing a lot more press that summer than Matt and Rachel, what that comment meant. And then Tyler, if you ever interviewed him, you know, he kind of just goes with it and he throws stuff out there. He doesn't really think about it. He's a fun interview, but I think when he sees things in print, sometimes he's like, oh boy. Oh, no. So he made a few comments kind of alluding to that. They just like didn't really get along that well. So then he explained that things kind of took a turn because Rachel moved in with him and Matt in the spring in New York City of 2021. And he said, started off fun. They would go out together. Rachel would party and Matt was always like the loser. And then she said, but then I kept waking up hungover from all the partying. And Rachel's like, you need to do better, Tyler. You need to not be acting like that. And I was like spiraling. He said he was going through a dark time. And I was like, man, if this girl don't get out of here, she takes my homie, then she's over here at my crib with her makeup everywhere. And now she's telling me how I'm supposed to be. Rachel noted that anything she ever said to him was out of love. She knew that there comes to a point with your partying that like not the best outlet for whatever you're going through. And Tyler said that Rachel was like a sister to him, but he just didn't want to hear anything she had to say.
It looks like the feud is settled then. Like, looks like everybody is on good terms. But I would imagine, you know, it's a big adjustment for them all. Like, you know, Rachel moving in pretty quickly after they first, you know, started getting back together. Tyler being like, where do I fit in this? Like, I'm now a third wheel. And she's kind of calling me out on my shit. And he wasn't appreciating it. I get it. But now it seems like they've all kind of settled into their roles. But I mean, the real problem here was Matt. I mean, he was the pot stirrer.
Yeah, Matt didn't set the right boundaries. And Matt, you know, it makes sense. They were like living single lives in New York City. Obviously, Tyler had just come off the Fame of Hannah Brown season with Gigi Hadid in his DMs, and Matt was his boy, and they were partying in New York. Rachel shows up. That's not going to fly for a lot of reasons now that you have a girlfriend. Tyler's still out here, definitely not acting like he has a girlfriend because he didn't, and has, you know, someone trying to put him in line. And then the media starts asking about it. So she sees these headlines where he makes these comments. And even if he said it with a laugh, you can't always convey that. No. In print, or also like maybe she's not even watching the video or reading the story. She's just seeing the headline. So makes a lot of sense. It was very funny watching the three of them interact, but that's not the only person Tyler's been interacting with.
No, Tyler has been busy, and you know, we're not even a month into this new year and he has been busy because Kristin Cavallari opened up about their New Year's Eve date a little bit. And when on her podcast with Stephen Colletti, Stephen asked her who the last person she dated. She said, it's so funny to me how I get all of these questions every time. And you get like the simplest stuff. My last date was public. So if you really want to know, I guess just Google it. After he asked for a date to help search any of the inquiries, she said it happened on New Year's Eve weekend. He called her out for getting flustered and she started to blush. And she replied saying, I don't get flustered. Of course, we remember that they were out and about on New Year's Eve with Jason and Caitlyn. But now there's like this video of Tyler on TMZ making out with some girl at a wedding. So I wouldn't get too excited about the Tyler-Kristin love story.
Yes. If I had to imagine in my head, what happened was Kristin and Tyler both didn't have dates for New Year's. Yeah. Kristin was hanging out in Nashville with her best friend, Justin Anderson, and they knew they were going to be seeing Caitlyn and Jason. And they were probably like, you should just text Tyler, like he'll come be your New Year's Eve date. And Tyler got the text and probably dropped whatever he was doing because she's Kristin Cavallari and flew to Nashville to be her New Year's date. And then he, like a week later, was drunk at a wedding because in the video, a little messy, just started making out with this girl, which like good for this girl. No problem there. I think it's fine. It's just like, I don't know if he's a stepdad material. So I think this was just like, oh, it's New Year's Eve. Let me text this hot guy who I know will 100% drop what he's doing and come to my city for me.
100%. Yeah. Like it's nothing more than a New Year's Eve fling, it seems like.
Yes. Well, a relationship that came to an end, which was sad. I feel like there's always a couple. I know this isn't technically like a true Bachelor couple, but there's always some sort of Bachelor related breakup these days right before a finale. Obviously, this has nothing to do with it or a premiere. Like they didn't ask Deanna to do it here. I'm not saying it's Kris Jenner, but I'm just saying this always happens. But Deanna Pappas, who was our season 4 Bachelorette, and Steven Stagliano announced their split after 11 years of marriage. She said, we ask you to respect our privacy during this difficult time as we navigate the new normal. We want to thank our dear family and friends for your endless support and many, many prayers during what has become the most difficult time in our lives. Fans obviously met Deanna in 2007 on Brad Womack's season after he picked no one. She was named the season 4 Bachelorette, which aired in 2008. She got engaged to Jesse on her finale. They split after less than a year. And then she met Steven through his twin brother, Michael, who was on Jillian Harris's season 5 of The Bachelorette. Nice little triangle there. The couple wed in October 2011, 1 year after they got engaged, and they share daughter Addison and son Austin.
So sad. I mean, 11 years is a long time. They got 2 kids and, obviously it's going through a difficult time for the 2 of them, but hopefully they're happier, apart.
I love Deanna. I've had her on the podcast a few times recapping in the past, and she's great. So wishing her all the best.
Definitely. This was interesting and not expecting this one. So Tenley, she was on, what season of The Bachelor was she on?
She was on Jake Pavelka's season 14, On the Wings of Love, I believe.
Who could forget? So she and Ben Higgins were almost something a little bit more. So she opened up about this on the She's All Batch podcast and said that she felt pursued by him. They were talking on a daily basis. This was before he was named
right before
Bachelor. Yeah. So she said the first thing he said to me in the car was, "Hey, so I know that I'm kind of putting this out there, but we might be pursuing something. But I also want you to know that I am up for being the Bachelor." And I said, "I know I've heard everybody talking about it, and I'm excited for you." But then, we hung out. Obviously, like we said, he went on to be the Bachelor. He got engaged, and she was actually possibly contemplating being a contestant on the show, but he pretty much asked her not to do it. And then she said, "If you and I are going to hang out later after the show because it doesn't work out for you, then you can pursue me then. But I don't want to pursue you. I'm not going back on the show to pursue you." She said the last time they communicated intentionally was just before he was officially named the Bachelor on After Paradise, and they ran into each other after he was engaged to Lauren. She said, "We ended up sitting next to each other at a meal, and I just wanted to respect wherever it ended. I figured he would tell me, like, I'm not with anybody if he wasn't with anybody. And I just remember saying, 'Are you good?' And he said, 'Yeah, I'm really good.' And I took that for what it was." She said then she remembers driving with her dad back to her family member's house where we were staying and crying and being like, "Okay, Dad, I need to move on." I didn't realize that this was like a real thing.
I know, Christina, it made me laugh because I had no idea about this. And I love the girls on She's All Batch, and they flagged it to me. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And people love Ben Higgins. Obviously, they're both married now. It is interesting. And I think it was the most she'd ever talked about it. But I found an article from 2016 when she talked to you. And she said that Ben and I have a very special relationship, but wouldn't say more. So I guess there must have been something that had leaked out there or pictures of them. So people knew that they knew each other, or maybe you were just asking her because he was the Bachelor.
Yeah.
But this is definitely the most she's ever said. So interesting. And I love that she was like, no. I'm not holding you back, but also not going on your season. Because imagine he already had Becca Tilly and Amber, both from Chris Soul's season, show up. So imagine Tenley walked in there too.
What could have been, though? I mean, like you said, everything happens for a reason. They're both happily married. She's got a baby and, they're happy. But what could have been? I mean,
do you remember her telling you that?
Now that you mention it vaguely, I mean, I remember her coming into the studio. It was very early on. I think it was right when I just started working with Us Weekly as well. So it was a while. But now that you say it, yes, I should have pushed harder on this.
Oh no, we could have blown up the perfect Ben.
Right. All right. Well, let's get into our Bachelor Nation talk. And Sarah, you had a great chat with our brand new Bachelor Zach.
I did. And I asked him all the hard-hitting questions about the first episode. We named names. We talked saying the L word. Here's Zach. Okay. Night 1, we see a lot of women. Obviously, there's 30 of them. Bailey, you guys kissed quick out of the limo there. You had met her once and, made it up for it with getting her name wrong. Did you have any rules for yourself going in on kissing on the first night? And tell me a little bit about that reunion.
So going into night 1, I didn't have any rules for myself. I think it was almost that would be, stopping myself from just fully taking in and meeting all the women. I guess one rule was I wanted to meet and speak with all the women I can, whatever time I'm allowed and can make work. That was most important to me. Regards to the kissing, no, I mean, sometimes you just had that connection and it's I'm not who am I to deny that if it feels if it's right. If it's forced, definitely not. But if it's natural and then it's mutual, then Hell, why not?
Brianna, America's First Impression Rose winner. She obviously got to come in with a rose and a rose-colored dress. Maybe some of the girls were a little jealous. Tell me about her, and also what was it like trying to navigate maybe people feeling that it was unfair that some of the girls had gotten to meet you once for a couple minutes.
See, it was great seeing Brianna like right after this, because as I said earlier, it is really overwhelming on night one, and everything's moving so fast, and having that familiarity of like, okay, I've met you before. We had this crazy experience on stage. It was so awesome. Like, so good to see you again. So that was great for us. I didn't really know in the moment, because I'm just getting pulled here and there, that, you know, the girls were really jealous, or felt really jealous about that. And I mean, it's so unique to me. I can completely understand where they're coming from of like, oh, that's unfair. They had one extra time. But in reality, like in the grand scheme of things, you know, like the right thing will always happen. And yeah, it was great.
Madison came in hot and then was out pretty quick. What happened with that whole situation? What's your take on it looking back of what was that whirlwind 12 hours for her?
Yeah. So with Madison, I mean, I think very highly of her. I just think one thing that I think most people would agree with is you just can't force it. You know, if you're forcing love or forcing a kiss in this manner, or just, I don't know, navigating it the way that it went, that was an answer in itself. And I'm not someone that wants to waste anyone's time, because I know like the sacrifice to be there and to either take off work or leave your family behind, like it doesn't do anyone any good to just like waste your time. And if it wasn't there, it's not there.
And Greer, your First Impression Rose winner. Tell me about her. Why did you give her the First Impression Rose?
Yeah, with Greer, with a night that can get chaotic, something with Greer that was really helpful was how comforting she made me feel during that. So I didn't feel like I was getting rushed or pulled into a million different directions. With Greer, she was able to kind of just pull me aside and make me feel relaxed. So when I look back at who I was going to give the rose to, it was just a really, really good impression of like, okay, like it's fine. Like we can take it easy. It's not this chaotic night one all the time.
I think I got to go, but to wrap up, I got to know real quick, what'd you think about the ear licking, and what's your tease for the ending?
Oh, the ear licking. Not the biggest fan of the ear licking at all. It was fine. And then I guess the tease for the end, all I could say is I'm very happy, and I think fans are going to be really surprised at the love journey.
He's very likable. He really is. I mean, I get it. I mean, a lot of people are still kind of up in arms being like, why is he our bachelor? But, you know, I think he's going to do a good job. So let's get into our recap. I mean, overall, what did you think of Zach as your new bachelor?
I definitely think he's likable. I had a pleasant time talking to him. I think he's honestly more good looking than I gave him credit for. Maybe it was finding out he's 6'4", but he was pretty cute last night. And I thought he kind of reminds me of Ben, to be honest. Like, and Sean Lowe, like very intentional, you know, gonna make a few comments that are like, oh, didn't see that coming. I mean, when the girl licked his ear, he was clearly thrown off, but he's gonna be respectful. You have someone like Madison who's blowing up in front of you, and you have a bachelor like Clayton or Peter who probably would have just like given her attention and maybe even just given her the rose because whatever. And then you have a bachelor a little bit more like Zach, who's like, I can't even like entertain this a little bit. I'm going to be nice, kill you with kindness. But I feel like you see bachelors like Peter and Clayton were producers' dreams, because when drama happened in front of them, they fell for it every time, and they wanted to get down to the bottom of it. And Zach was just like, yeah, no, I didn't like kissing you. You're crying. You're sweet, but you gotta go.
I gotta go. Like, yeah, she's like, I gave up my whole life for this. I'm like, oh, you've been here one night. Like, one night.
That girl was tough. That girl was tough.
I mean, was there anybody that really stood out to you? Obviously, Greer got the first impression rose.
That surprised me.
Yeah, that surprised me too. I mean, she brought coffee all the way from New York, and they like really went in on it. They were making out hard.
And that slit on her dress. I mean, she's gorgeous, but I was like, okay, girl, like she showed up. I feel like that was not that I'm saying Greer won't go far, but I just felt like maybe that was a lust moment for Zach. He did kiss. We saw 7 kisses. So who knows what we didn't see, but that's like, I think up there with bachelors on first night. I
think it's definitely definitely a record. It was a lot of kissing the first night. And, I mean, I guess he felt it with a lot of different women, and, he was, like you said, making out with a lot of girls. I mean, I'm trying to think of like who else really stood out to me. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about Christina.
Christina Mendrell.
Christina Mendrell, the only girl that gets the last name. So, a lot of people are going to be talking about her. But, I think I saw this somewhere floating around too. I liked how she handled the fact that when everybody crashed her party bus, like she didn't get mad about it. She was just like, all right, let's party. Let's have a good time. And it seems like they are kind of drifting away from the girl drama, because even like when Madison kept popping in and like interrupting people's conversations, the girls really weren't getting mad about it.
Right. Or they didn't show it as much.
Right. Yes.
Like, I think it's always hard to tell because we don't know what they're choosing to show us, what they're choosing to leave out, what they're putting emphasis on, what we're like maybe seeing on a loop, or we're seeing a less dramatic version of it. Like, we don't know. But I do definitely think that she kind of was doing the, can I steal him, stole him a few times. Like in the past, that would have been a major storyline. And obviously Madison got screen time, but it kind of was contained in a way. Mm-hmm. And then she was gone. So it was like, nice to know you, Madison. Right. Like her not getting the rose, in my mind, definitely, I think shows a little bit of a shift.
I think so. And even in the teasers coming up, we're not really seeing that crazy drama between the girls, which is kind of refreshing. I feel like we needed, yes, it brings some more entertainment to the show, and I think you need a little bit of it. But I think, for overall, it's nice to have a change up. I do like that one of the girls told Jesse Palmer to go back to ESPN.
That was amazing. I will say Christina Mendrell is the one who's like laid out on the ground on the stairs. She confirmed that on Instagram. Okay. And she's also the niece of Barbara Mendrell, who's the country music singer. And she also is divorced with a 6-year-old. She got married when she was like 20. Like I went through her divorce documents. And I really think she is going to be electric television. I think they're giving her villain energy, but because we're in this different era, it's like, could have gone the way of Olivia Caridi in how they're editing her, but we might get a Corinne or whatever. But I think also she, like you said, handled it so well. Whoever wrote that on Twitter, she showed up in that sparkly dress. Someone else was wearing the same dress as her. She was like, you look great, girl. She had the party limo. Other people came in and crashed it. Granted, it was after she already had her kiss in her one-on-one time. Who knows how she would have been earlier, but like they were just partying in that bus, which was kind of cringy, but nice that she didn't say she didn't. So I think she's a nice girl with a loud personality, and loud personalities don't always go well on this show. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle her. Definitely. As for Zach's connections, Catherine and Kody, confusing, but 2 different brunettes, both gorgeous, both stood out to me in like his interactions. Those are the 2 I wrote down, and they kind of look alike, but it was both of them I felt like he had a little something with. So those were the 2 that stood out to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Kody and Catherine as well. I thought Charity as well.
A lot of Charity in the promo.
Yeah, a lot of Charity in the promo. So I feel like he has a good connection with her as well. Interesting that he kissed Bailey when she came out of the limo just because he felt bad that he forgot her name.
I know.
But like, it seems like we have a lot of interesting girls. I like the rodeo girl. I can't remember her name. I just like that she's like a rodeo, like a cowgirl. I think
Brooklyn,
yes. So yeah, I think a lot of great girls. It's so hard. We have 30 and we're now not dwindle down, but now we only have 20. So it'll be nice to get to know the girls each and every week. But yeah, Bachelor is back. So here we go.
Bachelor's back. I'm very curious to see the ratings. I'm curious to see how it matches up against competition. They'll get that Hulu boost, obviously, but I feel like there's a lot riding on this because I just feel like there's so much talk about like the future of the franchise all the time.
I totally agree with you. All right. Well, let's check in and see which Bachelor member caught our attention on social media. So everybody is in Dubai. We're the only ones not there for the Atlantis opening. Beyonce performed. A lot of people from Bachelor Nation was there. Matt James, Jason, Cassie Randolph, Rachel, and he posted this video of them going going down water slides together. It seemed like the best time ever.
I mean, where the hell was our invite? Did they want our media coverage of this restaurant? Because I will give it to you. I am quite good at an event write up if it's free. Just kidding, journalism. But that looked like such a fun event. And I love seeing Cassie out there with her boyfriend, Brighton. After everything she went through, it's nice to kind of get to see her, get to have a little moment in Bachelor Nation, take it back and just like be a part of the fun stuff after getting to be like in so much of the turmoil and drama and craziness that Colton put her through.
Definitely. It's good to see her out and about. And then also before we wrap up, we have to give a quick shout out to Raven and Adam expecting their second child. So congratulations to them. 2 under 2. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Good luck with that. I know nothing about it, but have fun. They are so cute.
So cute. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Here for the Right Reasons. Bachelor's back. We're going to be recapping it every step of the way. Sarah, who's on the podcast this week?
You can hear my full interview with Zach, of course. And then I'm recapping with Game of Roses, who wrote the book, How to Win the Bachelor, and have a very different take. I've recapped with them before, and they literally view it like a game. So it's always interesting to hear what stood out to them and what they maybe clocked to give us tips on who they think is going to go far based on historical data.
So fun. Love it. All right. Well, make sure everybody listen to it. Keep commenting, keep subscribing. Let us know what you thought about the first night of The Bachelor, because we'd love to hear what you guys had to say. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.